Guys, welcome back to the podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to cover a really important topic. But first of all, a little bit of context. It's currently an incredibly wet, gloomy day. I'm sat here and I'm low in energy. Literally, I had one of my best mates' stag do's on the weekend. It was epic, really good time. But stag do's, they can get out of hand. So I'm paying the price today, and that was on Saturday, and it's now Tuesday, the day that I'm recording this. I could have quite easily not done this. Okay, I would happily not do it because, to be honest, I'm not actually doing it for me. Like, I'm good at this stuff that I'm talking about. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. So it's easier for me not to, but I'm doing it because I know how useful it is. I know how life-changing it can be, the things that I'm talking about. And this is the power of external accountability. I'm doing it for you guys. So if you are watching, I appreciate you watching. You are the reason I'm doing it. I'm going off on a tangent already, but this is the power of actually accountability and having a real strong reason why you're doing the stuff that you want to do. And this is something I ask a lot of my clients, all of my clients, every single week. Well, what have you got? What's gone well for you, and why is that important to you? Because if you can connect it to why that's important to you, then you're going to show up on the days that you do not want to, which is today. But I know already just by starting, I'm feeling better and more inspired about doing it, even though it's dark, it's wet, and I'm tired. I'm probably got like a 4-day hangover from the weekend. But anyway, I digress. Introduction over. I had some really inspiring conversations with some of my friends on the weekend. And that's inspired what I want to cover today, because I know how useful this is going to be. And this is going to be useful whether you're trying to create more structure in your life, not feel so overwhelmed, whether you are a high-flying, ambitious, either business owner or career-driven person, but you always do that at the expense of your health, or whether you're absolutely in fantastic shape, but you're struggling to kind of take the principles and your attitude there and apply it into the rest of your life. It's going to be useful for all of you. Now, that topic is mastering your response to stress. Now, I want to ask you a question. When you get stressed, okay, when shit hits the fan, what do you do? Okay, what behaviors do you engage in? And what thinking patterns do you default to? Take a second to think about that. When you get stressed, what do you do? You may have a few things popping out into your head right now, and that's really good if you are able to raise awareness around what those things are. Stress is the top thing that throws all of us off track. Okay, it is literally the most common thing and conversation that I have with clients is that the thing that throws them off is when shit hits the fan. It might be an event, it might be illness, it might be work stress, whatever the stress is, that tends to be the thing that throws us off track. And stress, the reason it does is because stress adds pressure to the system. Okay, and when I say system, I mean like the method or approach that you're using to kind of manage your life, manage your nutrition, your training, your finances, whatever it is that you're trying to work on. Stress adds pressure to that system. And it basically allows us to see, is our system, is the habits and routines and behaviors we're currently doing, is it up to the test or not? This is where that term stress test you might have heard of, that's where that comes from. Okay, is it actually up to the test of real life scenarios? Now, if it fails a stress test, if what you are currently doing, every time you get stressed, you go off track, you're fucked. Okay, I mean that in the nicest way possible and from a place of love. If what you are doing every single time you get stressed doesn't, you can't stay on track or have any way to rein it in, you just completely, everything good goes out the window, you are fucked. Okay, and it is your responsibility to find a way to do this. And hopefully what I'm going to share with you today is going to help you do that. Okay, that's all said from a place of love. Now, stress happens in the real world. Okay, it happens. You're never going to go through a week where nothing happens. And you are much better off, okay, but in the real world, you're much better off having a plan that allows you to move forward slower, like day to day, but passes the stress test. You are much better off having that than you are having a perfect plan that's going to get you from A to B as quick as possible, but as soon as anything goes wrong, everything goes out the window. That is like a chocolate teapot. That is useless, okay? Because in the real world, and you will know this, you will have things that, pardon me, things that have happened in your life that stress you out and throw you off. It happens. It's life. But you are better off having something that moves you forward slower, but passes the stress test. Okay, really, really important to understand that. So I want to share with you how our clients and how I work with clients inside Lead from the Front on mastering this stress response. And I want to share with you, do a little bit of teaching and explain around how the mind works so that you can have a better understanding of this, and then we can go into some principles as to how you can actually solve this and make a change within your life. So I want to run you through a little model, okay? Now, every single time something happens that triggers a response, that is an event, okay? Literally, it can be anything. It might be you stepping out into the road and then a car like whizzing past you and you narrowly escaping death. That could be the event. It could literally be something falling out of your fridge. Whatever it is, that is an event, okay? And our brain has two filters in which we filter this information through. And the first filter is kind of our emotional thinking brain. And this is where the whole fight or flight response comes from. Ultimately, this filter is there to keep you safe. It's evolved from when our environment had many more dangers in day-to-day life, saber-toothed tigers and what God knows whatever. But that's where it comes from and where it's evolved from. So it does actually serve a purpose in that it is there to keep you safe. You're either going to fight whatever it is or you're going to run away. And it can trigger, physical effects like adrenaline and increased heart rate. It's basically preparing you for battle in a way, or to get the hell away from it. That is the first filter. Now, everything that happens in your life goes through that filter, whether you like it or not, okay? The next filter, it then goes on to your logical brain. If filter 1 deems it to be safe and okay, it will then pass on to the logical brain, okay? And this is where we can basically weigh up and see what is going to give us the best outcome. Now, this logical part of your brain will draw on two main areas. It's going to draw on your current experience, but it's also going to draw on past experiences. So it will be like kind of like a file. Like if you pull out a file and think about, right, when I was last within this situation, what's the evidence I have for this situation? Okay, it actually builds up evidence. This is why your past experiences, for example, if you've been unsuccessful on the health and fitness journeys before, your past experiences will build up because you've just failed, and never got the outcome. It's no wonder it's so hard for you to do it, because you simply have evidence that things don't work, okay? That's something I can help with, but, we'll save that for another time. But basically, back to the model. It draws on logic, okay? Your current situation, it gives you time to analyze and process what's going on, what are the pros, what are the cons of each kind of decision that you can make, and also your past experiences. Now, this is really important to understand. The problem most people have when it comes to managing stress is that when you get stressed, whether that is someone pissing you off at work, someone saying something that pisses you off, whether you, weigh yourself and you're heavier than you wanted to be, whatever stresses for you and whatever stresses you out, that triggers something here. And the problem isn't that our brain works in that way, it's actually beneficial, because if you're about to fall off a cliff, it would kick in and hopefully stop you from doing it, because it would get you to act very quickly. But the problem is, when it's decisions like the examples I just said, whether you're weighing a bit heavier, whether you are getting annoyed with someone at work, the problem is when you act on that emotion, okay? And you've instinctively, you get stressed and you act on it straight away. That is when it's a problem. Because if we act off our emotional brain, okay, that happens so quickly and so fast, we do not give ourselves time to process and actually weigh up what is going to be a helpful decision within this situation. Okay, we just don't have time to do that. Now, this is where things like comfort eating, alcohol, like having a go at someone and lashing out at someone, these things are all triggered from a high emotional state, okay? And when emotion is high, intelligence is low. We are operating purely from that emotional part of our brain. If you've ever heard of a book called The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters, that book is absolutely incredible and life-changing to helping you understand that. So I highly recommend it. What I'm going through here is based a lot off of that. So I highly recommend that. But if you find yourself comfort eating, going to alcohol, or lashing out at people and doing things when you're stressed and when you're in a high emotional state that are unhelpful, that is because you are acting off of that emotional state. So I want to share with you a few ways in which you can manage this. Okay, it's not easy to do, but when you understand the how, it can be a lot more simple than being sat there at the moment not having a clue how to manage it. But if you ever emotional, eat, drink, or lash out at anyone or do anything with high emotion and you wear your heart on your sleeve, this is going to be for you. So there's a few steps within this process, and the way to manage it is to, number one, identify who is calling the shots. Is it you or your emotions? Okay, who is the one actually running the show within this moment? And the way you can do that is to ask yourself, do I want to feel like this? Okay, that is such a powerful question. If the answer is yes, I want to feel like this, then it's likely you calling the shots. Okay, more often than not, especially when it comes to a stressful response, it is not you calling the shots, it is your emotions. Okay, that is stage one. And a little bit of a difference, like say, let's just take emotional eating example. If you are stressed and you default to a bar of chocolate, okay, or biscuits or something like that, an emotional response happens very quickly. It might feel absolutely rapid, that the onset of it, and it might feel like a little bit of an out of body experience in a way. It's like this innate drive to just have it that wasn't there. If it was physical hunger, it might be to think, well, I haven't actually eaten within 3 to 5 hours. My stomach is rumbling. Those are signs that, or lack of concentration, low energy, you might feel faint. Those are things of physical hunger. But if it was like an emotional stress-induced hunger, it won't feel like that. It will feel very instant. It will feel kind of overpowering. And that's how you can kind of distinguish between it. More often than not, that question I asked around, do I want to feel like that? Most of the time that's no. Okay, people don't do these things out of choice. They do them because they're kind of unaware of how this stress response works and actually the damaging effect it can have if you don't learn how to manage it. So that's the first one. Identify who is calling the shots. Is it you or your emotions? Number 2 is to put a boundary in place to prevent acting on it. Okay? Like I said, the problem isn't that you have emotions. That's the amazing thing that makes us human. Okay? If you didn't feel emotion, you would be a psychopath. And I mean, I'm not a psychopath, but I can't really imagine that's going to be a nice way to live. Emotions are actually what make us human. We experience these massive highs. We also experience lows, but that's what makes us human. And that's one of the most amazing parts of life. Okay? But the problem is when you act on that emotion, okay, without a second thought, and it's this like innate impulse to just go and do straight away. We need to put some sort of boundary in place to just prevent it happening. And it doesn't mean prevent it happening forever. If you can buy yourself 5 seconds of time by just, you might feel some sort of stress response. Like I know for me, if I'm stressed, I feel it around here. I get my heart rate kind of increases, my chest feels quite tight. As soon as I recognize that, I can just stop, close my eyes, and ask myself to just take a deep breath. If you can do that, like honestly, that took me probably 5 seconds. The difference in feeling, even before I did it to now, actually that feels pretty good, is crazy. So all you need to do is buy yourself 5 seconds of time. If you can do that, you are going to be in a much more powerful position to manage your stress and not act off it, and therefore completely derail your results every time something stressful happens. Now, number 3 is to allow yourself enough time, once you've bought yourself that initial 5 seconds, and I'll share a few examples in a second of what that might look like. That breath was obviously just one example. But when you get to stage number 3, we want to act and operate from a place of logic. Okay, you want to act and operate from a place of logic, where you can weigh up the current circumstance you're in, what has happened previously, what are the pros, what are the cons, and mull it over a bit and wait for your head and your heart to kind of align and then make your decision. For some decisions, if it's like a little bit of stress, that might happen fairly instantly. It might take a minute, okay? But for some big things that happen in life, it might take you days. It might take you a week or so to mull something over until those things are aligned. Okay, that's going to be, based on how big a stress this is for you. Okay, but that's effectively the 3-stage process. Number 1, recognize who is calling the shots, you or your emotions. Number 2 is going to be put a boundary in place to just not act on the emotion in the moment. Take a deep breath, give yourself a pause, buy yourself 5 seconds of time. Just break that pattern. And then number 3 is to allow yourself time to act and operate from a place of logic. So I want to share with you a couple of examples. I'll give you the same example of something that's going to be unhelpful with managing your stress response, that's going to throw you off track with your, physique goals, your fat loss efforts, making progress at work, whatever your goals are that you're working towards at the moment. So example, right, you've had a stressful day at work, you're tired, you've just got home, you walk through the door, and then you receive a text from someone that pisses you off. Okay, I'm sure we've all had this happen to us, and like the feeling of stress and emotion will just hit us. Okay, we want to lash out, we want to do something, we want to send that horrible text back, whatever it is. Okay, now you might do this. You might reach for a big bar of chocolate or a packet of biscuits. You might, eat the whole thing. You might just go sit on the sofa, have a cry, eat all the food, and then it's happened so quickly, it's literally within the blink of an eye. And you then, after a few minutes, once it's done, you might feel like, feel absolutely terrible, feel way worse than before, and then you don't know how to do it. That's your only coping mechanism, so you rinse and repeat. Okay, that is an unhelpful example. I want to share with you, same example, but how you can manage it in a much more effective way. So same situation, long day at work, you're tired, you receive a text that pisses you off, but instead of grabbing a bar of chocolate or grabbing a packet of biscuits and consuming it all without a second thought, you stop and you take a deep breath. You take your deep breath. That's magic. I'm literally doing it right now. But you take a deep breath. That is your 5-second barrier for to just calm down. When you recognize, I don't want to feel like this, I need to take a breath. Then you change your environment, okay? You might get out of the room. You might go for a walk. You might do something that makes you feel good. Change your state, change where you are, okay? If you're sat on the sofa and you receive this text that pisses you off and triggers stress, one of the most unhelpful things you can do is only sit with it. Sitting with it and just taking a deep breath is really good, but then actually going and changing your environment can really give you perspective. So it could be going for a walk, could be going and, watering the plants. It could be to journal, might be get your journal out, write down your thoughts. It could be to go to the gym, do a workout, hit the punch bag, whatever it is for you. But what this gives you is time to calm down and operate from a place of logic. And I want to just go back to the biscuit example. This is really, really important to understand, is that if you are someone who defaults to eating chocolate, eating biscuits, eating something like that every time you're stressed and you do it for comfort, you have to recognize your mind is asking to be soothed. It is asking to be comforted. It is not asking for snacks. Okay? The only reason you're having snacks is because your mind wants comfort, and that's the only mechanism you can think of to give you that comfort. Okay? There is a big distinction there. Instead of that, if you were to, go and have a bath, light some candles, okay? I don't actually have a bath because we ripped our bathroom out, but I'm looking forward to doing this, right? I don't have this tool in my arsenal at the moment, but if you were to go and sod this, make yourself, it's nighttime, you've had a long day, make yourself a decaf tea, okay? Nice hot drink. That tends to be quite soothing for a lot of people, especially if you're British. You go run a bath, you light some candles, you have a nice scent, and you literally lie in the bath. I guarantee that you would not be thinking about going and demolishing a bar of chocolate and packet of biscuits, okay? Because your mind is asking to be soothed and comforted. It's not just asking for snacks. There is a big difference there. And when you can understand the difference around what is my mind asking me, what is it craving, you can then work out, okay, if it's craving that, here are the different options I've got of how to give it that. And we can start looking at how can we find other ways of doing it and coping with it other than food or alcohol, for example. So that's a really important thing to understand. But anyway, carrying on. I've also got a cold, by the way, so apologies, it's getting worse the more I'm talking. But you give yourself time to calm down and operate from a place of logic. That's what we want to get to. So for most people, stress, and these people, for the people who stay stuck, stress equals panic and chaos. Okay? Successful people, and some of my most successful clients, and for myself in my own personal journey with health and fitness, business, and just life in general, stress equals I need to slow down and pause. Okay? That is the difference between people who are able to navigate and manage stress really effectively and the people who every time they get stressed, it derails them. That is the big difference. If you can change your default behaviors to stress, you will change your life. Okay, that is so important to understand. If every time you get stressed, your default behavior is to give it instant comfort through food, alcohol, lashing out at people, whatever it is, if that is your default behavior, that's always going to derail you. If you can instead change your default behavior to giving yourself time and space, asking yourself some good questions, doing some reflection, changing your environment, sharing it with someone who you know is helpful. If you can change that, you will change your life. I have absolute certainty on that. So that is everything I wanted to cover. Guys, I hope that was, I'm glad I managed to get through that after my 4-day hangover from the weekend. But I really, really hope that you found that useful. I hope you took a lot of value from that. And if you did find that useful, I would love to know. I would love for you. I'm getting loads of really nice messages from you guys who are listening over on my Instagram at Isaac J. Lewis. So I would love to, if you found that useful, drop me a message on there. Even if you go and use that, even if you get stressed after listening to this episode and you go and use it, let me know how it goes for you. If it goes really well, I'd love to know. If it doesn't, let me know. I might actually be able to help you, or I definitely will be able to help you do it. So if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. Would love to get the feedback on that. And then also, if you're listening on Spotify, rate and leave a review. I would massively appreciate it. But guys, hope you found that useful, and I will see you in the next episode.